everyone, and welcome back to Positivity with me, Danielle. So, today I want to talk to you guys about triggers. No, I'm kidding. Not gun triggers. I want to talk to you guys about emotional triggers. So when I say emotional triggers, I'm talking about stuff that sort of sets you off and gets someone emotionally upset. So first I'll start out by talking about a couple things that bother me, and then we'll sort of go from there. So one of the things that bother me, I would say, is a liar. So a liar is a big trigger for me if I catch you in a lie, especially if it's a stupid lie, because after that, I'll think that every little thing you'll lie to me about, especially if you'll lie to me about something so simple, then of course you're going to lie to me about something big. So it's hard for me to sort of wrap my mind about it and be like, yeah, this person's not always a liar. Also, dealing with my past, I have dealt with a liar who believed his own lies so much. So it becomes a point where it sort of takes me back there and it reminds me of stuff I've been through. And it's like, hey, I'm not dealing with this. So it's a big trigger for me. Another one would be dealing with a narcissist. So a narcissist is someone who is pretty much self-centered. They really only see their self. They don't see you. They don't hear you. They can pretend they do because all they're worried about is what benefits them and what you do for them. So it's sort of hard to deal with a narcissist because some narcissists don't know they're narcissists. Sometimes you could tell someone what they're doing and they can change their ways. Other times people don't see what they're doing and they don't believe what they're doing, so they'll still just continue to do it over and over again. Now, some things about a narcissist is that they always have to be right. They need to be praised all the time for every little thing they do. They exploit others. They feel entitled to every little thing. They will tell you what you're thinking and how you feel. They will intimidate you. They will also, they don't want to be in an actual relationship. They don't really want partners. They want an obedient person that admires them. So once you stop praising them, once you stop admiring them, the relationship really becomes rocky, because at that point, it's like they don't really need you no more, unless they find something else that they need you for. Then that need for you is sort of what keeps your relationship with a narcissist, which is a really bad thing. So that's a super trigger for me because I dealt with that in the past, and it's something that will straight up scare me away. Like, I will disappear as fast as I can if I know that I've seen signs of a narcissist. But I try to be very open-minded because I have dealt with something before and my triggers are really heavy. So sometimes I can sense a little trigger and it will go all the way off. And maybe, it's not as bad as it seems. So to me, it's a big thing to sort of make sure what I think it is what it is. One way I'll see is a narcissist will not change their ways. They don't care. So if I can tell you what you're doing and you can sort of try to compromise or even try to, stop doing it and work things out, then to me, there's a chance, because a narcissist really, they don't care, and they sort of won't even try to attempt to change because they can't. I don't even think it's that it's a choice. I think they just can't do it. It really takes you accepting the fact that you're a narcissist to sort of even try to get any help and get anywhere. So that's a big thing for me. It's really hard for someone, especially who's been a victim verbally or emotionally, to deal with a narcissist, because it's a lot to deal with, because it's like that person has their own disorder, and then you being in a position where you're emotional and you've been through so much, you have your own disorders too. So it's like at the same time, if you're sitting there and you're a person that gets upset very easy and you're with a narcissist, you're gonna have a hard time. You guys are gonna bump heads all the time. It's just a lot. So that's a big trigger for me. Another thing is a cheater. A cheater is a big thing for me because one thing, I've been cheated on. I know it hurts like hell. So being cheated on, especially by somebody you really care about and you thought cared about you, is a big thing. I don't want to be the person that someone cheats with, and I also don't want to be the person that's cheated on. So if I sense that someone is a cheater, I sort of try to avoid that as much as I can. Of course, we can't know everything, but that's a big trigger for me. Someone cheats, I'm like, hey, forget a second chance. I'm trying to get out of here and, you know, save my sanity. Another bad thing is a bad parent. A bad parent is a big thing for me. Don't get me wrong, I am not a perfect parent, but my kids are everything to me. So if we're going out on dates, but you can't answer your child's phone call, or you're spending all this time with me, but you're never spending time with your kids, like, that's a big thing for me. I want you to be a good parent. I don't care about our personal time. I want you to be a good parent at all times. So even if I have to sacrifice myself and my time and my feelings for you to be a good parent, I understand that. But there's a difference between sacrificing yourself, you know, for the greater of your child, and sacrificing yourself to deal with a lot of other bull crap. So just know the difference and sort of pay attention to it, because it's a very touchy situation when you're dealing with children, period. So on top of that, another thing would be quitters. I don't like people who are always like, yeah, just quitting all the time. Like, I understand it's sometimes hard to find your place, but when you're just quitting all the time, it's a bad energy, because most of the time that energy is passed on. And being that I'm such a passionate person, I'm such a person that, like, I have so much energy to just keep going and keep pushing forward and to always try to work things out and think positive. So it's like, for me to get to that point, I'll have to keep pushing through, and I end up doing everything on my own. I end up supporting myself. Before I know it, it's like I'm supporting you, and I'm supporting my kids, and and I got all this stuff on my shoulders, and I'm dealing with all this stuff, and it's just a lot. Another thing is abuser. I already been in an abusive relationship. I refuse to do it ever again. Of course, you don't always know someone is an abuser. I don't think most people will get in a relationship knowing that someone is an abuser. It sort of takes time, but being a person that I have been through that, I definitely look for all types of signs now, like someone yelling and raising their hand, or someone jumping at you, intimidating you, or someone grabbing you in like a crazy way, or, you know, someone who's really angry really quick and they can't control it. You know, just trying to pay attention to certain stuff, or someone, how someone is under the influence, and it can be alcohol or a drug, whatever, just how they react. Because always knowing, you know, someone might be one way and then another way, you always want to be prepared for people's mood changes and stuff like that when, you know, when you're looking for signs of an abuser. Another thing to me would be, a drug abuser. Yeah, a drug abuser would be a big thing for me. I have dealt with someone who had a substance abuse before. And I'm not talking about someone who smokes weed or drinks. I'm talking about someone who is really bad with pills, or really bad with drugs, and to the point where they have a conversation with you and they're falling asleep, and they're zoning out, or driving and zoning out and stuff like that, and they can't really even concentrate on what they're trying to do, and they're not with it. That type of stuff bothers me a lot. It actually upsets me, and I will move myself out that situation as fast as possible. I'm not perfect, but at the same note, I know for a fact I am not a substance abuser. So I try to avoid that situation. You know, some people, it does not bother them, and I respect people are grown, they can do whatever they want. It just, when it comes to me, it's a trigger for me. So I try to avoid that as much as I want. Okay, so now talking about triggers. A trigger is something that emotionally bothers you. For example, you might feel a type of way about something somebody says, and you're like, oh, what you mean by that? Or, you know, and it'll hit you, or something that somebody does, and it sort of takes you back to a bad place in your life, or a bad situation. And you're like, yo, I dealt with this before, and I'm not going to deal with it again. Those are like triggers. Sometimes, especially as a domestic violence victim, you can go through so much that you look for every little thing to sort of be a sign. You're like, I don't want to miss this again. I don't want it to happen again. So you start looking for every little thing. So everything can be a trigger, because you're like, yo, I dealt with this before, and I'm not trying to deal with it again. And I'll get out of here before things get bad like it did before. And And that's sort of a situation that's hard when it comes to dealing with, you know, someone who has been hurt. So I say pay attention to the triggers. I say try to, if you really care about somebody, try to learn their triggers. Try to slow it down when you see someone getting upset and talk about it and sort of figure out exactly what it was. Was it the trigger, or what was it something that actually happened with that person, or did it take you somewhere else and you sort of lost it? Or, you know, try to figure it out and compromise and sort of work with that. Another big trigger for me too that I just thought of is yelling. I cannot stand for someone to yell at me. I dealt with that a lot as a child, and then in my past marriage. So yelling is a really bad thing for me. I cannot deal with it at all. So, you know, it's just certain stuff, you know, and I could probably go on forever about simple triggers that I have, that I try. You know, sometimes I can feel myself getting triggered and I can catch myself. You'll see me do stuff like play with my ear or twist my hair or look around, or, you know, do stuff to sort of take my mind from that trigger so it doesn't like emotionally bother me as much as it probably really did at first, and sort of slow myself down, take some deep breaths and sort of relax. Being triggered, it can really be a big thing. I feel like it's really important for people to realize these triggers. Not even being a victim, you can just be a person that dealt with a bad relationship. You could be a person who, you know, you had situations with your parents as a child. You can have all types of situations that can give you triggers. It's really important for you to find your trigger, so that way, sort of when something triggers you, you sort of know what it was that triggered you. For example, for me, when people tell DVs, oh, you should have called the cops, it triggers me because I was the person who called the cops, who got the restraining orders, who, you know, did everything they supposed to do. And even going to divorce court, they were like, oh, that's not enough, you know, and they never did nothing for me. So I'm a person that's like, okay, call the cops, and God forbid you ever have to be in a self-defense situation with that person, then okay, you got your paperwork. But except for that, I don't really see it as a benefit. So that's something that triggers me when people just say that to someone all the time, or you did this to yourself, or you didn't take care of what you're supposed to take care of, and that's why it was where it was. Or people say, oh, you stayed in a bad situation. People don't always understand there's purpose, there's reason for it. Don't even have to be that you love that person. It can be kids, it can be finances, it can be a job, it can be your home, it can be anything. So I say be understanding and try to understand where someone's coming from. Even if you could give them the time to sort of talk and explain it, that's a really important thing. So I also say another thing would be, like I said, paying attention. You see someone getting triggered, getting really upset, and sort of try to slow down. Don't always try to be right. Just sort of slow it down and try to figure out where did the disconnect really come from. Like, where did the situation really get bad, and sort of try to bring it back to there. One thing I will say, someone who truly cares about you, they'll start to notice this stuff about you, and they'll sort of try to work with you, whether it means, you know, just explaining stuff in another way, or slowing stuff down, or compromising. All of that is a really good thing for someone with triggers. Okay, so now let's talk about some stuff that people said. So someone said a hypocrite. So a hypocrite, I can see where that could be a trigger. To me, that's pretty much the same thing as a liar, because you'll say something about something that somebody did, but then you'll go do the same thing or something close to it. So to me, it's pretty much the same as being a liar. A bragger, oh, that's a good one. Someone who brags all the time. People that brag about stuff they don't really have, that would still be a liar. Or you can have someone who brags about stuff they do have, but you don't have to tell everybody what you have. You don't have to tease people. You don't have to say, hey, I got this, and you don't. So I can see that as a trigger. A liar, I said. A cheater, I said. A lazy person, I guess that would be, I would say close to a quitter, but maybe not. Maybe that's like someone that sits in the house and doesn't do nothing all day, or doesn't clean up after themselves and stuff like that. A messy person is a trigger for me too. I just feel like we're all adults. People should clean up after themselves and stuff like that. So that is a trigger for me. I don't feel like that's the female's job. Feminist, like stuff like that is sort of a trigger for me too. I don't like for someone to say, oh, as a woman I have to do this, or I can't do that. I believe that we can do a lot of stuff that they can do. You just gotta put your mind to it. I don't believe that a big strong man and a woman like me is just as, I'm just as strong as him. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, pretty much saying that if, you know, a guy can go be a good shooter at the range and a good instructor, a woman can do it too. It doesn't have to be a girl guy thing. Some stuff, of course, is girl guy, but I just don't feel like everything has to be labeled at that and the woman has to be lower. But whatever, you know, that's just me. Another thing, they said a woman abuser, which would sort of be like, I did talk about an abuser. A deadbeat, that would be a bad parent. I pretty much talked about that earlier. Haters, okay. To me, a hater is an admirer. They just are jealous of what you're doing because they're not doing it, or they are just mad that they can't be on the same level that you are. So they just sort of show it in another way, and they spread hate instead of spreading love because they feel like they can't, because they're not really personally dealing with you, or you know, y'all on bad terms, or they messed up and they fell out with you or whatever. That's how I feel. So I feel like if you have haters, then you're doing something right. But that's just me. But I could definitely understand how that can be a trigger too. So it all makes sense. So that's some things about triggers. I just wanted to touch a note on it because, you know, and it's where we deal with a lot of people. And sometimes you be like, I don't understand, you know, what happened, especially in relationships. You're like, what just happened? Even friendships, what just happened? Like, we were having a regular conversation and went crazy. It could be that person has triggers. So it's just good to sort of know that and pay attention to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I love talking to you guys. I appreciate your support so much. So bye. Talk to you later. For today's question of the day, it's, if you never allow yourself to be triggered, how do you know how you will react to it? How do you know how you will handle it if you never put yourself in that position and you never let yourself get there to actually have to go through it? Makes sense. Get through it, make you stronger, help you heal. For today's word of advice, stop thinking just because you're easily triggered that you're weak, because you're not weak. Just because you're easily triggered, it just means that you still have healing to do. There's nothing wrong with that. Take the time, heal. I know you probably feel like you healed already, and I understand that. But going through your triggers, it will just make you stronger and stronger, because you'll learn how to deal with it and get through it without the breakdown. So stay confident. It takes time.